Hey there, this is Tony Dubiel. I'm going to give you a really quick and brief demo on using a CSR1K router. If you're not familiar with that particular Cisco solution, what it is a virtual appliance, a router that is installed as a virtual machine, but it is also functioning as a virtual service. In this particular demo, what we're going to do is demonstrate the CSR router functioning as the Neutron router, essentially becoming a gateway between the private tenant networks. The way that we do this is the CSR router has a plugin, a Neutron plugin, so that it can function as the Neutron router, that gateway function as a virtual router, instead of using the default Neutron service that is typically implemented into the control plane. In this particular demo, what we've done is we've built it using DevStack. So DevStack allows you to quickly install an OpenStack based from a scripting onto a virtual machine. You can edit a local comp file, and that's exactly what we've done. Is we've edited the file to point it to a configuration that allows for the CSR to become that router. As part of the steps and how-to process of building this configuration yourself, I'm going to include a link to that particular example. So you can certainly download the CSR and implement it into a DevStack on your own. So having said all that, let's go ahead and walk through the demo. At this point in time, we've already configured a router, and we've configured two private networks and terminated two virtual machines that we've spawned into those networks. Here we have the router. You can see its ID. It's already been configured in Neutron. We also have VM Network 1 that is on Network 1, 10.1.0.0 network, and we have VM 2 that is on Network 2. Here we have a view of the console from the CSR router and the management address that is on a different subnet, the 10.0.100 network. We can see that that's on Ethernet 1, and that interface is up and running. At this point, we haven't terminated the networks that have been configured as tenant networks in Neutron. We have Gigabit Ethernet 6 and Gigabit Ethernet 7. Both of them have an IP address on that subnet. We just haven't terminated it yet. Okay, we can see here that we have the configuration from VM on Net 1, VM Net 1. It has an IP address of 10.1.0.3. It's terminated to that network, but again, the network's not terminated to the router, so we're not able to do anything at this point. The router, this is actually a typo, the router on Gigabit Ethernet 6 will have an interface on 10.1.0.0 subnet. Now we have a viewpoint from the other virtual machine. This virtual machine is the VM Net 2, and we can see that its Ethernet 0 interface has a port in Neutron. It's been assigned an IP address of 10.2.0.3, and it is terminated on Gigabit Ethernet 7, which is correct. That would be or it will be terminated on Gigabit Ethernet 7 on the CSR1 router. If we go ahead and try to ping at this point, it's not going to work because, again, we haven't created those network terminations. So that's what we need to do now. Subsequently, we're going into the GUI. We could do this from a command line. In this demo, we're using the GUI, and we're going to attach those networks. So starting with Network 1, attaching it to Router 1, walking through that process, as well as Network 2, attaching both of those interfaces to terminate both of those subnets to that router. Now what we'll see is that those interfaces will come up in the router, taking again a viewpoint from the console. We can see that Gigabit Ethernet 6, which was Net 1, is line protocol coming up. And then we also have Gigabit Ethernet 7, and that should be coming up here in a second to terminate that second network. That is up, and we can see that the pings are now working from VM1 to VM2. And if we take a look at the topology, we can see that the router is now connected to both of those networks, and those virtual machines obviously now can route between each other in that tenant environment between those two networks where the CSR is acting as the gateway, routing between tenant networks. So that concludes this demo. Please stay tuned. I'm going to bring up some other demos. Instead of using dev stack environment, I've built demos on Metapod. So in Metapod, we're going to see an actual implementation of an ASR 1002 router serving as the Neutron router and leveraging the Cisco Neutron plugin to do much of the same, but we're going to expand into additional use cases to provide internet connectivity, floating IPs, so that you can have inbound connectivity to web servers to access them via the internet, as well as other use cases where we can have shared networks between tenants, or tenants that can route between each other within multiple projects, as an example, and just things that we can set up, leveraging the Neutron router. And again, it would be an abstraction of a physical ASR router, and that's how we build out the Neutron environment that we call hardware-assisted Neutron as part of Metapod. I hope you enjoyed this video, and take care.